I move we open this meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals, January 2016.
Second. So moved. Second.
Aye.
Everything.
We have two decisions, the first one being case number 2886, Capital Telecom and Singular Wireless, 153 Powell Avenue.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the next three are all one application, really, 2899, 2899, 2899. Cooper's Neck Family LLC, Meadowmere Piners LLC, Meadowmere Associates LLC. We have a decision on that.
I move we accept the decision as proposed for those applications.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Moving along.
That takes us down to the pending cases. First one being 2890, Jody Donahue, 1211 Meadow Lane. Is there anybody here for that application? That's been hanging around for several months. Which, so far as I
Here you go,
know,
sir.
no communication from the applicant.
Oh, is that,
What do you want to do with it?
Sorry.
he was looking for capitals.
No?
I got it.
Oh. Capital. Oh, capital.
What do you want to do with Jody Donahue?
Chick was gonna try to find out from the,
Let me ask him.
The other one that's pending,
Jody Donahue, yeah.
I did speak to the engineer. They said they are redesigning the project, and they expect to have an application in next month.
So they'd like us to adjourn it for all purposes, is that
I think that would be their preference.
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
2901-1391 on Meadow Lane. For the applicant.
Good evening for the applicant, John Bennett. Bennett and Valerie Larkin has another lawyer in the office with us this evening also. We've changed the application substantially since we were last here. And the primary focus of and reason for the change of the application was to shrink everything down. After the last application, after we first presented the application, we looked again at the proposed deck and some of the proposed front entrance overhangs, and came to our attention that we were well above the 15% recommended lot coverage target of the proposed overlay district. So what we've done, and what you'll see before you on these amended applications, and I apologize because we just got everything together, areas design, the radius map, the
No.
survey, just recently.
I have one. They gave me one direct here.
So it's just all before you, but the nice thing about it is there's not any additional requests for relief. As a matter of fact, a lot of relief gets significantly reduced, all to try to take this pool and place it primarily, in actually some places even in a less non-conforming location than the variance that the board had previously granted for garage in this area. So we're now below the 15% coverage target of the proposed overlay district. And then in reducing the size of the proposed front entrance, the front yard setback is now 64. Of course, 80 is required, but 62 seems to be the target in the overlay district. Is required. The noticing was provided to locate the deck even closer, so I'm glad to be able to move that back. Also, the board had granted relief to construct the existing residence 65.2 feet from the front lot line in 2010. We gave you a copy of that. So relief was granted for a 60-foot front yard, but we're actually less than that, 64. And then, of course, the thrust of the application is to place the pool in the area where a garage had been previously granted. We're actually reducing there are dimensional requests for relief. So, for example, the proposed pool is located 3.5 feet further from the front property line than the attached garage that was previously approved by the board. And again, I think what we've done is try to pare everything down to the minimum. Also, you'll remember that I think one of the things that hopefully, from a wetlands and preservation and minimizing impact to the wetlands point of view, one of the things that hopefully puts the application, over any hill is that there is currently a legal walkway out to the Dug Lagoon, and as a matter of fact, some of it extends into the Dug Lagoon. Part of the project is to remove that, and it's an elevated walkway, to remove that and covenant against anything like that going back. So I think that's a good thing. There was a little bit of a three foot wide path at grade, but all of this elevated structure, some of which actually sticks into that Dug Lagoon, will be removed and covenanted. It'll be a covenant in perpetuity to prevent that. I know the village, both this board and the trustees have gone to some extent to try to keep Meadow Lane free from any sort of elevated structures. This one was approved by the trustees and the DEC, and even though good parts of it are not within your jurisdiction, we're offering to remove it and covenant against it. Against it ever coming back. We did, as per the request of the board, include a chart, lot coverage comparison within the 150-foot wetland setback for the existing, previously approved, and proposed conditions. We're actually resulting in a total reduction of lot and driveway coverage of approximately 605 square feet from the existing conditions, and a reduction in the total lot and driveway coverage of approximately 776 square feet from the proposed improvement previously approved by the board. So we realize that a pool is a little bit different than a garage, but what we've tried to do is squeeze things down. It's a very minor, as much of a plunge pool as everything. So we've tried to narrow the request for relief, lower the request for relief from that was already granted, and hopefully the board will agree that from an environmental point of view, that covenant against the walkway is hopefully puts us over the top of any questions in terms of the net environmental benefit. A lot of new stuff, and I apologize. We tried to get this stuff to you for the work session, but there's a lot of stuff to throw in there. So I did get it to Mr. Voorhees. He was kind enough to say that he'd received it, but of course he hadn't had time to look at it, nor did I expect that. So
I think you should probably just adjourn this. We haven't looked at it. I haven't seen it. We got to look at it, compare it to the prior one, and see what's involved before we can ask any intelligent questions. So that would be my suggestion. Let me just ask you one question. When you were here in November with the original application,
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
I asked for, a memo or something in writing that
we have another letter.
addressed all the overlay district guidelines, so that we could have that in written format rather than having to look at the plans to try to figure it out.
We have it's in our letter today. We tried to review the gist of those issues. Hopefully, consistency, as you'll see with the third paragraph, consistent with the Meadow Lane overlay district recommendations, we talked about the lot coverage and the other items. So if there's anything in there that we haven't addressed, we'll be more than happy to do it. So it's
In your
this
cover letter?
Yes, in our cover letter.
Well, there's several guidelines that we have. Does it really mention all of them?
I believe it does. I'll go back we're going to adjourn. I'll go back and make sure that we've addressed
I mean, even the ones that you conform with. We want
it. Okay, no, well, I'll take another shot at it.
to list all the guidelines and then conform or not conform.
Perfect. We'll give you a matrix for that.
Okay.
And we'll get that to you before the work session.
Then, John, kind of along the same lines, I haven't had a chance to review this, but just referring to the comments from the prior hearing. I know that we had asked for the location of pool equipment, if there was going to be lattice to screen any of the structures, what type of pool. I think you mentioned it was a saltwater pool, but I wasn't sure, or maybe a new chemical pool. And if there was a backwash drain, and I think we had asked for a section on the pool to kind of understand its relationship to elevations and the property line.
The elevation's included as the last page in
I
the
looked
area's
quickly, I
design
didn't see it, but it's there.
plans. Yeah.
Okay.
It is. The pool equipment's shown on the west side of the house. And it's shown on the site plan, and then also, I think he's also included on the elevation itself.
Yeah, I'm just, in the interest of, making sure we're farther along for next month, I just figured I'd go back through the old notes. And if there was anything else that needed to be supplemented, we would know it. If all that's covered, those were my notes from the last time.
No, I think we covered all that, and we'll get a matrix for you for the conform and not conform to the overlay district.
Gary, you have any? Rob?
No.
Anybody out in the audience would like to be heard of this application? No, therefore, we're gonna hold it. Adjourn it for all purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks.
Take it down to the new cases, the first one being 2906, Skyfall Lee LLC, 130 Lee Avenue. For the applicant.
For the applicant, John Bennett, I have the affidavits of mailing. This is a builder's errors case involving about 3.5 feet of relief requested because of the builder's error. And not the actual contractor, but the project supervisor, Mr. Yoon, is here to speak to you tonight as well. Let me hand you a tax map of the area first, because I think that it's helpful in that you can see that the relief that here is the subject lot, and the relief that we're asking for of about 3.5 feet is adjacent to the flagpole or access portion of tax lot 73.2. So to the extent that, obviously, the municipalities wisely create side yard and front yard setbacks, particularly side yard setbacks to provide for air and light and permanent structures, this is not, frustrating although it is, it's not any harm that would do damage to those goals of zoning. In other words, this 3.5 feet is butt up to or adjacent to the flagpole portion of the lot to the south. And I think that's important because it's, I believe the net effect of it is it's hard to argue that there's any true cognizable harm or impact on any neighbor. Although unfortunately, of course, we wish we weren't here, because we wish that the house, the pool house and the bathrooms had been located in the appropriate area. The matter was before the board, and the board was kind enough to grant some front yard relief for this very structure. But unfortunately, it was placed in an area that didn't quite conform to the required side yard setback. We're off by 3.4 feet.
Has to do with the pool house, is that right?
Pool house, yeah, and I have photographs of pool house with some wings on it. So although self-created, the fouls, so to speak, so therefore the request we respectfully suggest is so de minimis as to not be of any moment. The pool house was actually located much more than the required side yard setback from the closest residentially improved parcel to the south. So there's a minimal encroachment, and I believe it's impossible to argue that there'd be some sort of an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, certainly. It's not going to have any change to the streetscape. It's hard to think that from a sense of place point of view, 3.3 feet, 3 feet 4 inches is all going to be able to be perceived.
If I could just get this clear a minute. You're okay from the street with the 77.3?
Yes, because it gave us relief.
And you're okay to the east with the 79.7?
Yes, we're all, the only, you
We're
gave
only
us
talking about to the south.
to the south. And this is, Tony's here to, so we do have an estimate for if we had to take this down and rebuild it. And I'll be very honest with you. One of the primary reason I have Tony here this evening is to talk you through this estimate, because when I first, to be very candid with you, when I first got this estimate, I said to Tony, come on, this is a smart board. It's a very smart board, and if you're going to put an estimate in,
You get nowhere with flattery.
no, but, well, I'll try anyway. But anyway, you're going to have to explain this, because it's a high estimate, but as I go through it, and as Tony explained it to me, based upon the method of construction, based upon the fact that there actually is, it's not a basement, because you can't have a basement in an accessory structure, in the village code, but there is sort of there's an expanded sort of crawl space where all the pool can go and all that. So I'm going to give you this estimate, but let me ask Tony to come up and explain to you. Okay.
By the way, before you start, what is that tent structure there? Is that
It's a metal-sided, trompe-l'oeil painted structure.
Is that going to stay or is that going?
Oh, it's permanent,
It's permanent.
yeah.
And that acts as what? What's its function?
Well, it's part of the building enclosure, and it's also
It's part of the pool house?
part of the pool house. It's not a tented structure, it's actually a hard constructed building.
All right, so if that's the pool house, that is the pool house that we're talking about.
That was what was permitted. There was a limitation on the square footage of the pool house.
276 feet.
270, let me make sure, it's 273 square feet. The board, because of the relief that was granted, we were very sure that we were going to keep at 273 square feet. So despite the fact that an accessory structure in this zone could be much larger, one of the reasons the board, I think, helped us in the variance for the front yard is because of the minimal size of it. And I would say that would argue in favor of this request as well, because although we need that 3.5 feet of relief, it's about a little bit more than a third of what an accessory structure could be in the zone. An accessory structure about 800 feet. So
It seems like there's two structures there. Are there two structures?
No.
The way it's, the architecture, there's two sort of wings to the main
Oh,
central.
there's a wing on the other side also.
Yeah, one's a dressing room, one's a sort of lavatory.
And the square foot,
273.
273, and I believe we have a survey of the,
Well, we have a survey, I'm just seeing the foundation, but I'm not sure we do.
so this requires about $900 a square foot. to move.
It's a tricky,
It's,
Request-
stop
well,
it,
What's the
please.
cost?
900 something a square foot.
You say $900,000?
No, yeah,
$900 a square foot,
correct.
and it's 273 square feet.
And to divide it into 264, Mr. Math.
What's the multiplication on that?
It's about 900, isn't it?
it is high. But we're moving a retaining wall and the entire basement stair, yeah, and basically moving the structure 3 feet. So there's an access stair to this subterranean pool vault. That has to move.
It's not like just getting a house mover in there to pick it up and lift it.
That has a foundation,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
gotta be moved also.
Yeah, and
It's
all the
gotta be
It-
moved also.
There's a foundation under the entire structure,
And it would have to be moved how far?
3
3.5
feet.
Three
feet?
and a half feet. But you'd lose you'd have to break up the,
Well, I mean, there's other landscape features that are sort of aligned with this particular feature that would move with it. There's an outdoor shower, there's a dressed retaining wall.
So the plumbing would also have to be moved.
Yes, unfortunately.
Just wanna get to-
Yeah, I mean,
In other words, it's not as easy as it appears on the surface.
it seems like a simple structure to pick up and shift, but I've got to take it apart because of the way it was assembled.
and I'm also gonna lose the benefit of the foundation, the concrete underneath it, the pool equipment underneath it, everything would have to be, in effect, recreated. So, when I first, to be very candid, when I first heard about the issue, the problem, my response was, well, pick it up and move it. And, which is a normal human response. But actually going to look at it to see the way the thing is built, it's built in a similar fashion to the rest of these beautiful improvements on the property there. It's a heck of a lot more than just picking it up and moving it.
And the nearest thing to it on the south is a flag pole. So there's no house on that flagpole, obviously, it's a flagpole going back to the property that's on the east.
And there is, the obvious question is, you granted a variance for it, the variance had a survey, the variance showed the survey with some front yard relief. It also showed the structure being built in a conforming location. How did this happen? It's
Yeah.
a little bit of history here,
Yeah,
but
it's a
let me
little
explain it,
confusing.
and I want to add, I'm going to explain how this happened, but I'm going to say it again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, because it was a series of errors, and they were very, very well-meaning errors. And it was an error in analysis that I actually brought to this board when I first made the application for this property. The lot is bisected by the R40 zone and the R120 zone. Brant Reiner from InterScience some time ago went in and met with the building department. And the building department at the time, and this is what used to be the rule before the village switched to to zoning that was controlled by lot size. The building department informed Mr. Reiner that because you had a split zone and the old setbacks in the R40 zone for an accessory structure were 20 feet, that you could have it at 20 feet. And this analysis, this zoning analysis, was created out of that meeting between Mr. Reiner and Mr. Hosso in the building department. When this property was being developed, as you might remember, that the property is two separate parcels, this parcel and the parcel to, I guess that's to the east.
East, yeah.
East. Although the two separate parcels, they're utilized for one family. But when the property was first being developed, I had a conversation with the folks at InterScience, and it was my opinion that the zone line was irrelevant. You had one parcel, and regardless of whether or not the property was bisected by zone lines, since you had a parcel of a certain size, you plug that parcel size into the village code sections, and that gives you the setbacks. So I had this sort of difficult task of going to the building department and explaining to the building inspector that I thought he was incorrect, which is never something that I love doing, but particularly when the interpretation that the building inspector is offering aids my client. And I said, no, I think you're wrong. So I don't know if you remember that, but what I'm telling you about is essentially a recitation of what I said to you when we first came into this variance. So Rick was kind enough to say, to agree with me at the Zoning Board of Appeals that
That's
no.
not always the case.
What'd I say?
That's not always the case.
I think more and more, but it's certainly not always the case. But anyway, but you're right, it's not always the case. So those differing minds, I'll add, I think are always reasonable. But in any event, so I did bring this to the attention of the board, and we got this setbacks correct based upon the size of the overall lot. This, however, was still around, and then somehow
We
got
made
into
a
the hands
mistake in,
hands of the contractor and the pool contractor. So he not the pool contractor, the contractor that
The
created
builder.
it, the builder.
Yeah.
So when we informed the builder that he was 7 feet or so off, his response was, I'll just say it in the cleanest way possible, what the hell are you talking about? I'm 7 feet in from the 20 feet. That was a clerical and administrative error, that happened at the site. I just don't want you to think that somebody said, you know what, put it there, it works better there, we'll go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, we got this big harm, it's only 3, what the hell are they gonna do? I don't want you, there's actually a reason why it got in that place. Is the hardship self-created? Yes. What does the law say? That's the factor that you take into consideration, but that in and of itself, you have to look at all the other factors. So even if you slice this estimate in half for the purposes of 3 feet, it's still, there's harm there. I don't think there's any harm or any foul there. I don't think you're doing any damage to the reason why you have side yard setbacks. So it's really a big variance. It'll cause a lot of havoc if we have to move it this way. So we're pretty much on bended knee here, I'd say.
Very much so. I mean, we
Very
made a
apologetic.
mistake, and there was some confusion, but that nonetheless, we made a mistake.
Well, I think that the nearest thing is that flagpole, which is in your favor. If there was a house there and a pool there, a garage, and something, it was a different story.
Yeah, but I just want the board to understand, and when I say I'm not throwing under the bus, anybody under the bus, this was based upon a meeting that InterScience had with the building department. They reasonably took this information back, put it on this analysis. I looked at it again and was in the sort of uncomfortable position of telling someone that I thought the building inspector was wrong, but this, and indeed it said so before the last variance, but
Yes.
this was hanging out there, so I apologize.
And at one point, you did remove the tennis court, which certainly is a
Yes,
much
yes.
noisier activity in the
Oh my
pool house.
gosh, yes, yeah. We moved the tennis court, a lot of stuff here to try to make the nice thing about it is that the owner, they're not merged, but the owner controls both lots, so the footprint, so to speak, on the property, since these are 2 lots being used by one family, is a lot less.
So I understand all those arguments about de minimis and impact and natural error and all of that. Why do you come in with these ridiculous estimates then and besmirch the whole process? Why don't you rely on those arguments about minimal effect and such? I mean, how much did it cost to build the thing?
That would be embarrassing to tell you.
Cost a lot.
It's $967 a square foot. to
It
build.
costs more than that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not, I mean,
I will tell
it's
you
a
that
little
in-
bit, it's,
We had this on Willie Street before. Went to move some roofing. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. I didn't believe that one either. And neither did the builders on this board. So it doesn't help your argument, I think.
Yeah, no, I know. I will tell you, however, that I have, in the last 2-3 years, reviewed construction contracts for, and I'm not going to name the builders, but you've all heard them, because of the way stuff is built. You'll all recognize them, anywhere from $1,400 to $1,500 a square foot. So,
Numbers of,
But it's a pool house. It's not.
It is. It looks like a very simple pool house. Just the exterior painting, which was a commissioned artist who came in and employed it, I thought that was a bit over the top. And his price was significantly over the top for a paint job. The insistence on the design team for a reclaimed wood. I mean,
But
not that we
wood's
have
not
to.
going away. You're
It's
going
not
to
going-
reclaim it. you know?
No, but to answer your question about the cost to build this sort of jewel box,
Okay. Okay. all right.
one wouldn't ordinarily, on a sort of risk-averse type of investment, go this way. It's not done every day, but this was the desire of our client.
the estimate that I was first given,
Well, we probably don't want to.
no, was considerably higher, and I said, you've got a builder on that board, and you've got guys who've been on this board for a long time. I don't care if this is true or accurate. You ain't putting that estimate in because it's just going to annoy people. This is the true estimate. This is actually pared down, and I understand your response, but there are construction methods and standards of construction, and there's stuff that goes on in the estate areas and the surrounding areas that is just pretty
Okay.
amazing.
Well, if you got to have Trump Doy in your pool house, I guess.
Not everybody, but
you have to have what?
Trump,
It's an
it
art
looks-
thing.
it's a- makes it look like- it's like a-
so it's supposed to create the effect of a tented jousting feature.
Right.
It's a folly.
Say that again. I guess.
Tricks the eye. is the-
Oh, it does trick the
Well,
eye.
that's what the Trump Doy. Yeah, it looks like a
I
Mediterranean.
thought it was a tent when I saw it when I was down there.
It's meant to look like a tent. That was the original intent, yeah. The roof
Interesting
was
thing is the owner
constructed,
doesn't even live there, he lives on the Barnhart Street.
Is that right?
yeah, the principal residence would be
The
Barnhart.
principal. Right, yeah. The other house functions as a guest house.
Yes, smaller.
Which one functions as a guest house?
Lee Avenue.
This one.
Legally, it's a single-family residence, but I guess it's a good thing that people buy two houses, two lots and use them as one, from a density point of view. The 3 months
See
out
his
of the
tax
year.
bill.
We've given him the numbers.
I'm sure it's gonna be beautiful.
Again, our apologies for having, it's one of these applications, somebody calls me and I say, you gotta be kidding me. But when I looked at everything that's going on here, I think it does make sense to ask the board for the relief, which again, we apologize for. But that's where we are where we are, so.
Rick?
I just have one question. What is this on the south side of the cabana?
That's a stair coming down.
Is that this?
No, it's the rail. It's right, that rail's right
It's the rail
here.
for the stairs, though, is what Rick's asking.
Yes,
Oh, these are stairs going up.
down
Down.
into this crawl space.
It's not a basement, because we can't have a basement, but.
These stairs that are going down, are they below ground? Okay, so it's not that.
It functions.
So, what I was headed to was you asked for
This
set,
is,
let me just
Let
finish.
Rick finish.
I don't need you to, you asked for a setback to 26.6, which measures to here, not to here.
Well, I assume that would be in the nature, in looking at it, in the nature of.
That's why I was
entrance.
asking, is this
Okay.
above ground steps, or is this something that's below ground?
the railing is above ground, but the steps are below ground. So if the railing is deemed to be a structure that would need relief, we would have to re-advertise for the relief for the railing.
Okay, but that's not what I'm looking at. I mean, this is several feet above ground.
Correct. It's a railing
So you don't fall
at
into
the
the
high end
stairs.
of this.
Oh, okay,
So when you're walking at grade, you don't fall into the stairs.
okay. I don't know what the building department's interpretation is of that. I mean, we can, if you're prepared to act tonight, we could grant the variance that they've asked for and leave it to the building inspector whether they need to come back.
Not part of the structure, you don't think?
It's in the nature of a cellar entrance, like if it was a Bilco door, those can be in a,
I don't know what
Oh,
the,
okay, what
I don't
John
know
was
how the
saying.
building department interprets this.
All right.
So,
This is happening all over the village, these stairs on the side and all that are
yeah,
not.
I'm not, I'm not opining on whether it is or is not. That's a matter initially for the building department and to you if there's appeal from it. I was just asking the question.
I understand.
Because from here, it looked like stairs going up, just from that picture.
Yeah, it's
So
misleading.
the
It's bigger
picture,
down.
picture is misleading.
It's a basement-like stair.
The stairs are all subterranean, the railing is so that you don't walk into the stairwell from grade.
There's a change in grade behind the building.
And the crawl space is where they're gonna have the pool equipment.
Right, it may be fine, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna opine one way or the other on something that, I don't know how the building department has dealt with it.
Is there anyone out in the audience who'd like to refer to this application?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board.
Please use the microphone so they can capture you on film.
Good evening. David Kirst from Egan and Matthews. I'm here with the neighbor at 160 Lee Avenue, Miss Francesca Buzzi Ferraris is here with me. And she's the owner of the flag lot on which this abuts. And I'd like to first start off with possible notice issue in this matter.
You're here.
I am here. My client would,
Obviously, you got notice.
yes, we did, but the notice on the street has not been up since the 18th. It was there from what my client will discuss, if necessary. It was posted on the 15th, and was gone by the 18th. And I have pictures.
We had a snowstorm.
The snowstorm was on the 22nd, or 23rd, I believe. I do have some pictures that we can submit from both the 16th and then as well as from the 25th and 26th, showing that it's not there and it wasn't there today either.
Again, the fact that you're here, you've been notified.
Yes,
That counts.
I'm not saying that we haven't been noticed. I'm saying there may be many other people who,
The fact that the sign fell down,
I'm raising it as the issue.
non-issue.
Did you get the registered letters from the neighbors?
In regards to the issue raised by Mr. DePietris, the village code defines a structure as anything constructed or erected on or under the ground or upon another structure or building, excluding driveways constructed at natural grade. As only driveways are excluded from this definition, the full staircase into the basement of this structure should be counted as part of as a structure, and the setback variance should be measured from the edge of that staircase and not from the edge of the rear wall. And I believe that's an additional 4 or 5 feet in width from the back of the cabana to the edge of that
So you're saying
staircase.
It might not be 26, it might be 22.
Yeah, or even 21. Yeah, something in that area.
That was just raised by Mr.
Correct.
Peters.
Correct. We concur in that as well.
Have you inquired of the building department here?
No, I have not,
As to this
not on that matter. You know, as they are, you know, it's got a full railing, as you can see from those pictures. And as the definition of structure includes everything both above and below grade, we feel that that's necessary that this be included in the variance. It's been noted that there was a prior approval for this pool house. That prior approval, from what I've seen reviewing the file from this board, the survey that was used didn't show this staircase either. And from what I have seen in the building department plans, the original plan that was approved was for a Bilco door, which again wasn't followed and constructed by the applicant. And I think that lends into part of the error here. What's been shown and what was approved at the prior board meeting, as well as what was approved by the building department, wasn't actually built. They changed the full staircase. The location's been slightly shifted.
Well, if it was in a conforming location, it wouldn't make any difference whether
If the
it
stair-
had a door or it had a staircase.
Right.
As long as it all conform.
Right, but it doesn't. And then in regards to, this is a full staircase into a cellar. It has pool equipment in it, so I know they're trying to couch it as a equipment vault, but based on the code definitions of cellar, which is the area, a story partly underground having half or more of its clear height below finished grade. This area underneath the pool house is a cellar that isn't permitted inside of a.
According to the code, you can't have a full basement under an accessory structure. You can have a crawl space.
Have we seen any? I've not seen any sort of height measurements. From what I understand from looking at the pictures of the staircase,
They call
this
it
goes to a
crawl
full.
space, so I assume it's 4 feet or something or less.
But he's asking.
I'm asking to confirm that.
What's the dimension?
I haven't seen any dimension on what was actually constructed in order to be able to tell whether that is a cellar or not. And
You have a
With-
dimension, John?
with Bilco doors instead, you know, who knows what was.
Talking about the height of the basement.
Yeah.
Right.
Building
Crawl
department
space.
issued a permit for it. And the understanding was, I don't want to interrupt that.
All right. No, go
But it
ahead.
might be, the understanding was, of course, that it was not a basement, because we know we can't have one. And the basement suggests, you know, at least, I think, under the state.
7 or 8
code,
feet.
7.5, 8 feet or something.
7 feet now.
7.
The next point I'd like to make, on the survey that was submitted, there are shown vent pipes along the property line shared with our client. They're roughly 3 to 4 feet from the property line. Again, I haven't seen any notation of these on any prior surveys or building plans. These structures, I assume, are connected to the pool equipment, in which case they would need to meet the required setback as well, which is consistent with conversations we've had with Mr. Talbot in the building department regarding the generator venting on the other property owned by the applicant, that any of those venting structures needed to meet the required setback as well, and here they clearly don't. They're only 4 feet.
Something that you would have to address with the building department?
Well, I was hoping that it's a condition of any.
We don't have any jurisdiction over that. That's something you would have to address with the building department, and if you're not satisfied with the building department's interpretation, your client would have a right to appeal from the building inspector's determination to this board. But we don't have jurisdiction to address an issue that is not involved in the application.
Well, in your ability to grant mitigation and conditions on a variance application, if those vents
You do
are
what- you do what you want.
for the pool equipment, I just like to, I'm raising the issue, sir, that those are part of the pool equipment that's in the basement of this structure that a variance is being requested for.
They have vents and they're part of the pool equipment?
I don't know, there's been no I have no plans or anything that
Why
were,
does the pool filter have to have a vent?
because it's in a basement. It can't just,
The
I
heater
don't,
would have to be vented, but it wouldn't be vented that far away.
I don't know, it's shown on the survey as vents. I'm just going by what the applicant has put in here.
Over in the corner, it says vent pipes.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, all the way over there.
Yeah, 3 feet from the property line, where a 30-foot setback is required.
Well, maybe we can find out what the vent pipes are.
I'm gonna repeat, we don't have any
We have no
jurisdiction over
right?
that.
No.
It's wasting our time. Even if we wanted to rule in your favor, we don't have the jurisdiction to do it. So, the application that's before us is for the cabana, pool house, the pool house. Anything else?
Yes.
You would have to address with the building department and then appeal to this board if you're not satisfied.
Okay. And the last issue then to raise, as you can see in the pictures, this is a visually striking, I guess, paint scheme on the pool house. Our client is repeatedly in and out of this driveway. This is something it can be seen right now by our client, by any visitors to their property. To have, and based on I haven't seen the estimate that they submitted. I'm assuming if that's to reconstruct the whole building, I don't see how that's necessary or correct, as I believe has been pointed out, how the extent of that cost. I don't believe, and again, I'm not a contractor, but if they'd have to deconstruct the whole thing and rebuild it, that may be one cost, but this is built on a foundation. I don't understand why they wouldn't be able to lift it, pour a new foundation, and move it 3 feet. And they don't have to have a full depth foundation like it has currently. They can put the pool equipment.
We don't know that it has a.
Well, it doesn't have to have pool equipment under it as it does
No,
currently.
it doesn't
So they
have to
wouldn't
have
have
pool
to, there's no requirement that they can reconstruct exactly as it was in this spot. You know, sounds like this cost estimate is extreme, and I think, as pointed out, that really doesn't help here because it's almost comical for the size of this building. So they do have the ability to move this. I don't believe they'd have to tear the entire thing down and have it repainted and whatnot, as seems to be claimed. Lift it off the foundation, move it 3 feet, pour a new foundation, put the pool equipment somewhere that's compliant instead of under it, and move on. You know, and our client feels, adamantly about this increased distance. The closest proximity to their property line is detrimental to their property, as well as their use and enjoyment of their property.
Driving by.
Repeatedly.
Well, it abuts the flagpole, it doesn't really abut where their house is, or where their.
No, but they're
They go up and down that driveway.
up and down that driveway all day long, You're on.
Just because you could see it in the wintertime, that doesn't make it
I mean, that's
problem.
how much part of the year is that we're saying, what if it's, because you can't see it for 4 months out of the year, it's okay. I mean, it's a decent amount of the year that this looms very largely in their line of sight, going into and out of their property.
Not if they look ahead. I mean, you're only driving by. It doesn't really affect one's quality of life, I would argue. And the ability to enjoy one's residence.
Do we want them to go back and find out about the stairs?
I think we might as well.
And the vents.
You might want to ask about the vents while you're there, and maybe we have to do something with that too, I don't know.
Well, I don't think the vents are before you. If
No,
he's
they're
got a
not
problem with the
before us.
vents, he's got
They're
to
not- my
bring it
question is
before
that
you.
Do they have to be before us? I don't know.
No, I think your counsel has answered that. If he has a problem with the vents, he goes to the building inspector and gets a written determination and comes to you. I just wanted to add a couple of things. The crawl space is 4.5 feet.
4.5 to 5 feet at the most, but it's well below what would be required for a basement, which I always thought was 7.5 feet, but Jerry said 7.
As of 2010, it's 7.
It's 7, okay.
7
So-
is COable.
But I'm well underneath that. We'd be more than happy to put some evergreen screen. We'll plant them at 8-foot heights in between the section of the flagpole where
What
the.
do we have there now?
What's there now, Tony?
There's a privet.
But the problem with the privet is that
loses
if you
its
put the
illusion,
if you put the evergreen right on top of the privet,
Yeah.
of course, that kills the privet. Could we back it off? No, Tony, could we back it off a bit?
Yeah.
We can back it off, say, 8 feet or so, 9 feet or so from the privet, so that'll still have the required sun for the privet. So that'll provide an evergreen screen. We could be more than happy to do that.
Let me ask a question. As to the
But, one
vent,
last thing, I'm sorry, if I may. My understanding, and we'll go back and ask, but my understanding is, you can go all around this village and see that the building department has always said that a cellar entrance, like a Bilco door, is not subject to these restrictions, but we'll go back and find out. It's probably best to clear everything up, and if there is additional relief needed, we'll just re-advertise for it. And then that will, I don't really want to think I have to offer to re-advertise unless we need the relief, but we'll ask John Foster, and if we need the relief, we'll re-advertise for it. But I think the notice has been sufficient, and the objectors obviously have noticed they're here and they've waived it.
may I speak now?
Oh, it's up to you. I was
Okay,
trying
as
be
to the
complete.
vents, has it not been our purpose when we're granting a variance to take a look at something that was on the line, like a shed or something, and ask them to move it? Why are we prescribed from speaking about the vents in this case?
We don't know what they're for.
I'm sorry, what was the issue?
Vents.
The vents.
Even though they're not in the application, we have often granted a variance or not, or granted variance and then said, hey, why don't you move that shed, by the way, which is not an issue. Why don't you move it away?
Well, technically, there's got to be some nexus between the relief being requested and the condition, but I'm not going to be
No,
over technical about it.
we
We'll
can
take a
do
look
that.
at it.
Even
Yeah,
if
no, I
the shed is
understand.
not part
No,
of
I
the
understand.
application, so
Yep,
you're
yep.
not conform to location, we ask the
That's
owner
true.
to move it.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Part of his relief.
Yep, that's true. So we'll meet with John Foster and see what his position is on the stairways, the gate, rather the fence around the stairway, which is a safety issue. But I think all of the rest stands, and we have a great argument for relief. Again, we apologize for having to be here. It's self-created, but I don't see. One thing I haven't seen articulated by the objectant is any damage whatsoever to any sort of the character of the neighborhood or her enjoyment of the property, other than in a conclusory fashion. I mean, you've got to demonstrate it. If there's true harm that's going to befall someone by the result of a granting of a variance, you have to demonstrate it. You can't just say it's going to affect my property. You have to demonstrate it.
Would anyone else like to be heard?
My name is Francesca Buzzi Ferraris. I'm the owner of the flag lot. The reason regarding the vents, since before they built that pool house, as soon as they built the pool house, since they put all the pool equipment underneath, they put the vents very, very close to my private hedge. And all the fumes at the hedge is not in very good shape in that area. Besides the fact that they should have done the pool house 3.5 feet closer to the pool, they did the same mistake. They say there is a builder mistake, but it's not a builder mistake because they did exactly the same thing in the other lot attached that they have with the same owner and same builder. They put a greenhouse with the basement underneath where they're going to put a generator. I have all the exhaust pipes on my borderline. on the property borderline on two zones, on Lee Avenue and on Barnard Street. This is
Barnard
why,
Street house?
yes, because I have two houses, Barnard Street, and when I built the house on Barnard Street, we follow all the rules completely, all the setback, everything was perfect. And this is the second mistake they are doing. Okay, the first one, you don't say anything, but after they do exactly the same. A greenhouse, basement underneath, all the vent coming out. At the corner of Barnard Street and Lee Avenue, the vent are on the property line.
It's not this property.
It's not this property. It's the
Yeah, but
Barnhart property?
on this property and on Barnard
Barnhart,
property.
they never came to get any kind of a variance. There was no variance granted for.
No, because they were supposed to remove those holes, huge holes they made. And the building inspector, Chris, said to me, don't worry, they're going to move them. This was the month of, beginning of November. Now we have end of February and still have the same. Because they want to put a generator, meaning all those vents will have all the fumes,
We
the
don't know
noise.
anything about that house because it's never been before us and it's not part of this application. We don't know anything about
Yeah, no, you are totally right. But since it's not, they continue to do the builder mistake. It's not a builder mistake. It's something, is an action who is done on purpose.
We have no proof of that.
Okay, in any case, I'm against that variance because they should have followed the rules. We have the setback were 30 feet and they're not 30 feet.
Anybody else? So what we'll do is hold this open, right?
We'll meet with the building inspector.
Okay. So let's, got a few things to get straightened out, so.
Move we adjourn for all purposes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the application of case number 2907, 79 Main Street, Southampton LLC on 79 Main Street.
On the applicant, Gilbert G. Flanagan, excuse me, 21 South Main Street, Southampton. Okay, this is an application to construct two relatively small one-story additions to the retail store at 79 Main Street, which, as you may remember, was formerly occupied by the Southampton Hospital thrift shop. The application fairly well lays out the nature of the relief. In the southwest corner of the building, to fill in that corner, would be an addition of 233 square feet, one-story addition. And at the southeasterly corner, a one-story addition of 167 square feet. I'll mention to you that when I was preparing earlier in the week for the presentation this evening, I noticed there were a couple of very minor discrepancies in the architect's plans. They had a different measurement of the roof from the first and the second floors. I had that all corrected, so earlier this week I submitted some revised architect's drawings. The result is that there was a change of 5 square feet less of relief necessary. So the plans you should be working off are the architect's drawings dated, last dated
January 19th?
26th.
26.
Sheet that was submitted actually, and they also, the architect also had the wrong street address, which I made him correct. So instead of 69, it's 79. If you look,
These are the new ones,
yeah, the new ones that came in a couple of days ago.
January 27th.
Right, correct. So the only difference there is that The southeasterly addition is 167 square feet rather than 172, so it's actually less relief than being requested. At the same time, I also submitted an amended letter that described the 50% expansion, both on the first floor and the second floor. Now, as I mentioned, there's no change in the second floor at all. That retail space remains unchanged. The first floor retail space increases by 400 square feet. And if you do the math, you'll find that the relief on the first floor is less than 16% expansion, and the overall retail expansion on the entire building is only 9%, so it's well below the 50% maximum that you're allowed to consider under the village code. The purpose of the two additions I laid out in the application, I'll just remind you of them. In the southwestern portion of the building, that's where the surf shop exhibits longboards, paddleboards, surfboards, and things of that nature. And that, as you probably know, has become a more popular water activity, water sport. There's a tremendous increase in the amount of paddleboarding. And as part of that, the applicant is also proposing to raise by, I think, 3 feet 11 inches, the one-story addition that's on the northwesterly corner of the existing building, so as to accommodate those features. The 167 square foot addition that's to be located at the southeasterly corner is designed primarily for the sales and display of sunglasses, things of that nature. So the two additions are relatively minor given the total size of the building. The existing building is, the square footage is over 4,000 square feet of retail space. We're adding only 400 square feet as proposed. It's also important to note from the survey that, as I said, what we're really doing is squaring off the southeasterly corner, and we're squaring off the southeasterly and southwesterly corners, going no closer to the property lines than the existing building already is. The part of the application also, in addition to the fact that this building is already greater than 75 feet back from the street line. As you know, there was a recent amendment to the village code which stipulates that in the VB district, particularly on Main Street and Job's Lane, the maximum depth of the building should not exceed 75 feet. Well, as it turns out, the depth of the existing building from Main Street is 79.50 feet. So when we square off the southwesterly corner, we'll actually be 4.5 feet over that limit. So that's the amount of variance relief we're looking for on that addition. And again, we're going no further from the street than the existing building. Secondly, there is a maximum 3-foot setback requirement from Main Street under the same new section of the code. This proposed addition would be set back 4.2 feet, but that's actually in line with the main entrance to the existing building. Again, the design is all dictated by what's physically there. So we would submit that we're not changing anything physically with respect to the building that is there, which is what drives the nature and extent of the relief we're requesting. Now, because we're adding retail space, there's also the question of off-street parking. And as I indicated in the application, if you use the table of off-street parking spaces, you do the division of 400 square feet divided by 180. That's 2 spaces and a fraction, which means you round it up to 3. But there was also another fairly recent amendment to the code that says in the VB district you need to provide only 60% of the spaces that were required under the table. So if you do that math, you come up to, you get 2 spaces, actually 1.8. So really what we're requesting here is relief to the extent of 2 spaces and not 3, which I would submit again is a very small amount of relief being requested. As you also know that the code grandfathers the pre-existing parking conditions which exist for this property, so we're required to address a variance only in terms of what we're adding. Now, as I always do, and I know it may be a futile exercise, the code also allows you to grant a variance from paying the fee if you find that there is no need for additional parking, and if we're within 500 feet of a municipal lot, which we are. We're about 250 feet from the municipal parking lot on the opposite side of West Main Street. So I felt obligated to put in the application a request, so I have done that, and I'll say no more about that subject.
As you're well aware, we've never waived that fee for commercial space.
I'm fully aware of that, and I would not be surprised if you designed that variance, but I felt obligated as an attorney to put it in the application. You notice I'm not jumping up and down, screaming and yelling. So just,
We've done that anyway. so.
well, you never know. So just to go through very briefly the standards, since we've had a long evening already, under the relief provisions in the village law, I'll give, first of all, I think it's evidence that this variance is not substantial in relation to the requirement. We're talking about overall an increase of 9% in the retail space, just under 16% on the first floor alone. It's only 400 square feet. They're one-story additions, not two-story additions. We're not increasing the second floor area or retail space whatsoever. And we're well under the 50% maximum that the board is allowed to consider. I would submit that there are no negative impact on the neighborhood, as you can see from the architect's drawings, which are, I think, fairly good, and they're very good. The two additions complement the existing building. What's there, the materials and design will match, and obviously we'll need ARB approval. We can't feasibly obviate our difficulty because of where the existing building is, because it has the length that it has. And by the way, the proposed westerly addition of the 233 square feet, only a small fraction of that is more than 75 feet back from the street. So most of that addition doesn't need any relief in terms of setbacks. And I would argue that clearly this situation is not self-created. This building has been there for probably close to 100 years, and my client did not create the setbacks that currently exist. I think the memorandum I submitted, which came directly from my clients, indicates why they're doing or would like to do the proposed additions. Number one, as I said, to increase the space for the sale of longboards, which is much more popular in this particular field. And also, as you may know, they have another store at 69 Main Street, and what they're trying to do is to consolidate their operation into one store. It's really not necessary for them to have a second store. So I think that's fairly all I need to say at this point. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. I apologize for my voice.
Will this addition in any way alleviate the placing of merchandise on the sidewalk, which may be legal as it's done? I have no idea, but I think it's been excessive.
We'll certainly have more room to display their wares, so it could have that effect. Could have that effect.
Could. Is it legal to place?
That's something I have to look into. That's not something that's been brought to our attention. Building department hasn't raised it. The ordinance department hasn't raised it. If you want, I can look into it.
I kind of would. I would like to, if, I was hoping that there would be some relief to the sidewalk by this.
I can certainly find out.
Okay.
Now, I understand, just to go on a little further, I understand that with this particular section of the code, this board recently has liked us to, similar to the Meadow Lane Overlay District, requirements run through the section of the code that deals with specific regulations for the VB district. And we would be prepared to submit a memo that shows how we either meet those requirements or why we're asking for a variance. In fact, I've already drawn something up. I just didn't have it finished for the night.
No.
No questions. I was going to ask that they submit an outline of all the new VB district regulations and where they fall under them, and they've already offered to do that. And also, he's correct on the requirement, it's 2 spaces, not 3.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard to this application? I assume you're going to hold it open for all purposes?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Case 2908, 2909. Rooney, I assume you're going to handle these as one application?
Yes, please.
Beechwood Latch, 101 Hill Street, 109 Hill Street.
This application involves the Village Latch and Terry Cottage properties. It's a change of use. It is under the code a type 1 action pursuant to SECRA. My understanding is that the planning board will adopt lead agency status for this, so instead of wasting your time with a presentation, I just ask you to do a resolution granting the planning board lead agency status, send it to them, and we'll come back when we've completed that process. I don't know if we complete the process successfully, I don't know what's going to come out of it, so it's probably premature to try and do some sort of application tonight or a presentation that you'll hear again in a year or so when we're done with that process.
Would like us to resolve that the planning board be lead agency.
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Let me just word it for you. Resolve that the zoning board consents that the planning board be lead agency under secret.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who came here who'd like to be heard of this application? No. See, it's not gonna be heard anyway tonight, so. 2910, the African American Museum, 245 North Sea Road.
Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road, Southampton. I've just handed up my affidavit of posting and mailing, but I've had some conversations over the last week with both John Foster and with people at Nelson Pope and Voorhees. This has been before the planning board, and I know that we are going to try to come back with some slightly different plans that hopefully resolve some issues that other boards are having. So I'm going to just flat out ask for an adjournment on this right now for 1 month.
Rick, do you have any questions?
Pardon?
Do you have any questions?
No, I'm familiar with what's going on between the building department and the planning board and Linda over some revisions to the site plan, and it makes sense for that to work its way forward and then her to come back, because it may result in some amendments to the application.
Do you have anything on this one?
No.
Rob?
No.
Anybody out in the audience like to heard of this application? All right, so we're just going to adjourn that for all purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Why? On the application of case number 2911-1400 Meadow Lane.
The applicant, John Bennett, and you have a representative from John and Conroy Architects here as well.
This is from the other one, right?
Yes.
This is an application to remove the existing improvements on this lot of 1400 Meadow Lane. It's a lot that fronts both on Meadow Lane and Road D, which Road D is the village road, but it's also used for parking for access to the beach. Property is currently improved with a home, some decking, a pool, and a tennis court. There was a variance granted for the tennis court, and there was also a variance granted, it says 80, I think it's 82, for the, for an addition to the house. It essentially makes it sort of a three-story house. You'll forgive me, I just have to share a bit of a personal anecdote. This house, the addition for the third story, in 1982 was the first application that I ever put before this board, and I thought I was very well prepared, and I came and made the application, and I was quickly peppered with questions by Mr. DePietris at the time, and then Chairman of the Zoning board, Patrick, and I think it was out of sheer pity that they granted the relief, because I was fumbling with these questions. I thought I knew a lot about the law, but I realized that I had a lot to learn about zoning. I wanted to recount that, but it was, I thought of that when I first looked at the house. But in any event, that variance that you granted, and the addition that went on to the east part of the house would come down, as with every other improvement with the house. So we have a situation where we are, the current house meets the dune crest setback, but it doesn't meet the coastal erosion hazard area setback. And what we propose is to migrate significantly back from the Atlantic Ocean. The proposed house will conform not only to the dune crest setback, but will conform to the coastal erosion setback, unlike the existing house. So we want to move all the habitable space back behind the coastal erosion hazard area, which of course is a good thing, and get that all out of the coastal erosion hazard area. And essentially put the pool and the proposed deck on the northerly end of the area that's currently improved by the house. Even though the coastal erosion setback...
If we do,
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
if we do coastal erosion hazard variance, you typically involved in conditions, et cetera.
That means
Sorry,
stick.
John.
No, that means stick around. I think that's what I heard. Yeah. But in any event,
Even he thinks I'm trying to bug out.
in any event, we're going to move all the idea is to move all of the habitable space behind the coastal erosion hazard line. But even with that moving back, you still have a situation where we're well in conformance with the dune crest setback. But we're going to move all of the improvements will move about 60 feet north of the current location. The house itself will be 75 feet further back from the ocean. So I think that's all a great thing. We'll, of course, maintain the existing tennis court pursuant to what was requested. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the neighborhood, which of course you're all familiar with, but across the street, across Road D, that is, I'm talking now about proposed setbacks, because what we're asking for the setback for the proposed house is 50 feet. Why did I choose 50 feet? I chose 50 feet because when the house was constructed, as you can see from those old zoning maps that I placed in with the application, it was a B zone, and the front yard setback was 50 feet. So I thought that would be an appropriate measure of where the setback for the house should go. But from a character of the neighborhood point of view, the property directly across the street from Road D, which was owned for some time, I don't believe it currently is owned by Mr. Coleman, but was owned by a Cy Coleman. And I'm going to hand up to you a couple of decisions that Mr. Coleman was able to obtain from the board. And but the primary reason that I'm handing these up to you is that both of the decisions contain surveys. And you'll see, once you get them, that the house to the west, across the street from Road D, maintains a front yard on Road D, front yard setback of merely 27.1 feet. So, as with the lot before you, the lot to the west of Road D is a narrow, non-conforming lot, but also a request for relief to 50 feet with the proposal before you would not be out of the character of the neighborhood, because actually it would be almost well, it would be almost twice the setback that was maintained by the property directly across the street from Road D. Again, of course, we have the typical situation where we have two front yards, so things get a little jammed in trying to maintain a reasonable building. Also, in terms of character of the neighborhood, any impact on the neighborhood, we do have a letter of support from Mr. Beard, Anson Beard, who owns the property directly across the street. That, Mr. Beard states that he is the owner, when I say across the street, across Meadow Lane on the bay side. He's on the easterly side of, bay side of Meadow Lane and Road D. I'm the owner of 1401 Meadow Lane, Southampton, a neighboring property owner. Received the application, I'm paraphrasing, and I have no objection to the proposal. I am in favor of it. So that's Mr. Beard. I can also show you some aerial photographs that would be hopefully be helpful to you. Again, you can see from the air. Oh, check.
Thank you, John.
This is the subject property. We removed the house back considerably. But you'll see that the property, as the surveys that I handed out before to you, you'll see that the property to the west indicates a very, very minor, a minimal setback of 24.7 feet. Some of these lots were probably developed many years ago. So, again, from a character of the neighborhood, there doesn't seem to be an issue. Probably, from my point of view, the biggest challenge we have to the biggest request for relief we have, I was going to ask Nayron from McDonough and Conroy to get up and explain to you exactly the type of relief that we need. The biggest challenge that we have is the sky plane relief request. Just let me get a copy of that generally to show you. This is in your packet, but you'll remember as a result of some litigation, probably, and some input, trustees about a year ago adopted, solidified what has been a determination of Mr. Foster and his predecessors for many years, that the height of a structure in a flood zone is taken from the base floodplain elevation plus 2. So the village trustees passed a law to shut the door on any sort of ambiguity about that, although we were confident, the court was confident, as a matter of fact, that there was none. But when the village trustees did that, what they did do is impose a pyramid or sky plane requirement to try to balance out some of these competing issues. Getting the house up in the air for environmental and floodplain damage, and on one hand, and the effect on neighboring properties on the other hand. What you see here, and this is part of the application. I have Nayron here to answer any questions about it. It's pretty obvious. The proposed setback to the east property conforms in terms of dimensions, but we do need a little bit of the sky plane. The sky plane law is quite new, which means that there's one self-created hardship. This lot obviously well predates, and the structures on it well predate the imposition of the sky plane law approximately a year ago. I could stand corrected, but I don't think in this zone, in this R80 and R120 zone, before the imposition of the sky plane law, I don't think there was any law requirement. So this is new. Now, but I think it's more than fair to suggest to you, particularly as it relates to the request for sky plane relief on Road D, that there's no harm, no foul, because this sky plane, and I was there at every one of the hearing about the sky plan law was put into effect primarily to lessen impact on adjoining properties. This property, the property line, the westerly property line, let me start over. The house is proposed at 50 feet. It's 50 feet from Road D. Road D is 50 feet wide. You're 100 feet before you get to the property line of the closest residential property to the west. So I would suggest that even though we do need a good bit of relief for this newly enacted sky plan law, that it will not have any ill effect on the property to the west. And as I said, Mayor Ron is here to answer any questions if you would like. The net effect of all of this, I think, is to create a situation. The house is not in great shape. It's a house that doesn't conform to modern flood setback, FEMA, coastal erosion, other type of environmental regulations, and what we're proposing, a house that will conform with all the FEMA regulations, will conform with modern building codes, and will, even though we can't get all of the improvements out of the coastal erosion hazard area, all the habitable space will be out of the coastal erosion area. The house is migrating back about 75 feet, and from where it is now, when you have a situation where you have the entire part of the habitable space of all of the habitable space on the property is significantly seaward of the coastal erosion hazard. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to say to you. And again, we chose the 50-foot front yard setback because it bears relationship to the zoning code when it was approved, but even that 50-foot setback is significantly larger than the house to the west, thus well in conformity with the neighborhood.
If you move the line to drawing the sky plane 50 feet to the west, that is on the other side of Road D, would that involve sky plane violation too?
Can I answer that question, sir?
You
Mayor
got
Ron,
it?
Lieutenant Conway Architect.
Is it clear?
You're referring to a situation like this, if the sky plane line was taken from the property line?
If you took it 50 feet
Correct.
the other way where the road is?
It would not touch the structure, sir. That's what I was
Gotcha.
drawing here.
Oh, I see. You have drawn that somewhere.
Well, no, I just did it here.
Oh, very good.
You want to hand that up?
Sure.
Be helpful.
Well, I have some notes here, some personal
That's
notes,
okay.
girlfriend's numbers and all that. sir.
Pictures?
No,
Any pictures?
on my phone.
Oh, man. I was going to say, I know it's just boys here, but I'm sorry.
Also, John mentioned that the new ordinance is 33 degrees, and if it was 45, the relief would be almost 40% less if these,
That was the old, that's the standard, obviously,
Right.
that's the standard pyramid law when you're not in a flood zone.
and the 33-degree line on the Road D side is taken 40 feet into the property. It was just to clear what you just discussed. If it's taken from the property line, it would pass the building, it would bypass the building, and it would not touch the building. Or we could push the building east another few feet to avoid the line.
What I'm handing out is an amended sky plan analysis that has the,
Draw that line in one of those board members can visualize that.
This lot for the area that it's in is narrow.
oh gosh, yeah. It's, well, yeah, it's 161 feet. I think the smallest, the narrowest lot that I've seen on, let's Meadow Lane is the one that, there's a house currently under construction on it, across from the Meadow Club, and that's 75 or 80 feet.
We don't have copies
But
of this?
I think there are lots, the conforming lot width down there would be 200 feet, I believe. I think it's 200 feet in the R80. There are plenty of lots down there that are wider than 200 feet, but there's a number of them that are
Yeah, they're fairly narrow.
that are fairly narrow. You know, there are lots on, I don't know if Bob Smith put them on there. Yeah, these are all lots on that old Southampton Quag subdivision from 1928. They were all originally bay to oceanfront
Same
lots.
thing indicated.
So that's the way they were drawn out. They were big, relatively big lots for a subdivision filed in 1928, but
Oh, yeah.
nevertheless, they were narrow. And then, of course, in addition to the relief for the house, we would need relief for the pool and the deck, obviously, to be square with the house. And I think, Charlie, did you want to sign the relief for that to the west as well? The house conforms to the 4/10 rule on the west side, but there is no 4/10 rule for accessory structures, so we squared out the deck and asked for relief over there to the west as well.
So in a sense, if you moved the house a few feet to the west, you would not have a pyramid issue.
To the east.
To the east. But you'd be closer to Road D, but.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when the applicant, when we were first looking at this application, the applicant wanted to center it. And we have no problem whatsoever with that, but I was trying to key the front yard into some, for lack of better words, some intellectual consistency by saying that it was the front yard that was under the code section, but if we want to move it over, that doesn't create an issue.
Let me pipe in right here, because, I mean, I have more comments, but since this has been brought up, that was going to be one of my comments. Let me start by saying, as you're aware, this is a brand-new law.
Yep.
Pyramid law, you know, in these floodplain zones to protect neighbors. We are always very slow and very careful about starting to grant variances from a new law. Doesn't mean you can't get one, but, you know, you do it once, and then it can create a precedent for more. Not a binding precedent, but a precedent. So this application needs to be processed carefully. We need to explore alternatives. Whichever way we end up going with it eventually, one way or another, we need to explore alternatives. And one obvious alternative Rob just brought up. What can we do to conform to the sky plane pyramid thing on the east side, adjacent to,
The east side, I'm
on the
sorry.
east side, adjacent to residential property? That's very important. I mean, there's a number of ways. I mean, I don't know if a redesign could do it,
If we shifted it.
but
if we
moving it 2 feet, whether that's the figure, I don't know.
I mean, if we shifted it 10
But-
feet over, that would be fine too. I didn't want to be too, I was trying to, you know.
So if you shifted it 10 feet, you'd only need relief on the west side, not on the east side.
Which
Exactly.
adjoins a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Where on the east side
It
of the
doesn't
house.
even enjoy it, it's not even like a
You
road.
gotta conform to the east side pyramid law.
Well, that's done.
But moving it that way, now, you drew a line, sir, that really just missed, so you're gonna run into trouble on the other side a little bit.
Are you referring to the east side, sir?
Well, if
No, the line
you
would need
protect
to
the
be
east side and move to the west,
Right.
that line is gonna come very close to having a problem with that on the west side.
Right.
Well, we do have are you talking about the,
If you move towards Road D,
right,
and you only consider the property line and
Oh,
not
well,
Road
if-
D,
right, if you only consider the
you are
property line.
probably gonna clip a corner of it and therefore have problems with
Well,
that
we
lot.
can do that, we can do that too.
And we can also get rid of this part in here.
We could get rid of the relief with not too much of a shift, we could get rid of the relief totally on the east
On
side.
the east side. That could, we could. do
Yes,
that.
but
Yes.
moving it to the west,
By just keeping it where it is
yeah?
and maybe just redesigning this part,
When you say
Oh, I
keeping it
see.
where it is.
keeping the structure where it is.
No, we could move, if the board that's a direction
Well,
that the
if
board
you
would like,
can-
if I can finish.
If you can keep it where it is with a revised design, that's even better, because now you're not increasing the amount of relief from Road D.
We could, John, talking on
You
behalf.
know,
Oh, I see
let's
what
not
you're
take
saying,
the
yeah,
time
yeah.
tonight.
We could
No,
do
no, no,
this.
but it's, I want to try to see where,
Right, right.
We could do this. at least.
To the extent that you can do it without needing more relief on the other side, that would be the ideal solution.
I understand. We'll take a look at it. That's very helpful in terms of input. And I understand, it's a new law, you know, if you're, hopefully, if you're gonna grant relief, you wanna go it slow and look at alternatives. And we'll present that alternative. I just think that, you know, I don't know that, the law, as I stated in my presentation, the new Sky Plan law was clearly meant to protect, you know, residential structures, and I don't know how much of the thrust of it was to protect the road frontage, but here you have not so much a road frontage, but it's a parking lot. You know.
Right,
We understand that.
Yeah.
It's the other side that we're concerned with.
Yeah, no, we're gonna make it, you know what, we're gonna redesign
We'll
it so
make
there's no need for Sky Plan relief to the east. Done.
Or, no, that's up to the board, no?
What's that?
Shift the building over, so
Well,
at
if we
least we're
shift the building over, then we increase the need for relief.
on the west side.
West side, and I think Rick was concerned about that understandably from a precedential point of view, because it's just the volume of relief is larger. So if we can make it work over there, I can make it work.
Make it work, make it work.
You have anything else, Ron?
No.
Jerry? No. Rick, anything?
I have a few more things, mostly comments, rather than anything else, because there is a lot of relief being requested in this application. And again, I think maybe you need to take a harder look at alternatives. For example, although you're removing the existing house from south of the coastal erosion line, you're utilizing, I'm gonna guess, more area, more lot coverage south of the coastal erosion hazard line for your proposed deck and pool. I don't have those, I haven't tried to look closely to get all those numbers.
Why don't we'll get you the comparative figures.
You know, give us the existing lot coverage for the house south of the coastal erosion hazard line and the proposed lot coverage for the deck and pool. It looks like it's considerably more because the survey says existing house has 1,903 square feet of lot coverage. And I think the existing house is all south of the line, but I don't know that.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. And you're showing proposed lot coverage for deck, steps, pool, spillway of, now, I don't know how much of that might be north of the line, but you've got 2,941 plus 1,000, that's 3,941. It's about 4,000 square feet of coverage, new coverage south of the line, unless some of that figure is north of the line.
No, I thought it was pretty, the total, look at the Squires survey, I mean, we'll get you the numbers, but it's not that significant. The total existing lot coverage is 1460.
I'm not talking about the lot coverage. I'm talking about the lot coverage south of the coastal erosion hazard line.
I understand. No, I'm gonna get you that number,
It
absolutely.
looks like you're substantially increasing it,
You're just eyeballing it.
eyeballing it.
We'll get you those numbers, and what we'll also do is try to see if there's a way to minimize the coverage south of the coastal
Yes.
erosion.
Yeah, I mean, you can minimize it by reducing the size of the deck You can minimize it by shifting the house a little further north, but
Not much place to go.
eyeballing
Tennis
it,
court, yeah.
unless you want to remove the of course, if you remove the tennis court, you'd have plenty of room, but
Is that legal in Southampton to remove a tennis court that you have with a variance? That's all, it should be legal, it should be illegal, I think.
I'm just saying
Already did
again,
that on Lee Avenue.
I think you need to make efforts to minimize
I understand.
that relief. And I guess those are my initial comments.
Chick?
I had the same observation as Rick, so he's covered that. John knows what to do. The existing structure is kind of integrated into the secondary dune. And I don't know if it's appropriate here or if it would come before some other board, but just to look at, the regrading of the dune, it looks like there will be a void in the dune once that structure is removed. And I think that should be restored and probably revegetated.
We'll get you dune restoration and.
That's appropriate here, I think it'd be a good thing.
No, this-
Overall, pulling it back is good, but the
This-
square
this is where you
footage
should-
had me concerned.
This is where you do it, this board.
Yeah. good. Okay, that's the only other thing I have.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to hear this application?
John, could you also give us, before I forget, give us a tax map of the area so we can see how many lots are of
Oh, I think
approximately the same width?
Yep, here. I'm sorry, Rick, I have the one sheet.
Which one is you?
Oh, it's the Easter Road deed.
I got it.
Yep.
I got it.
11.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Michael G. Walsh, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, and I represent the neighbor to the east, Willara LLC, 1384 Meadow Lane. John Bennett was kind enough to give me access to his file and meet with us today. And I've had discussions with my client. A lot of the things that you've discussed here this evening, we're happy to see, were things that we were discussing this afternoon. A shift of the house to the west, possibly, elimination of the variance relief required to the east, and a neighborhood study just to check and see what the character of the neighborhood looks like. So we thank you for your time, and I'll continue to talk to John, review the application. Hopefully this is something that my client will be in a position to support at the time your board sees its way to issue a determination in the matter. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else wish to be heard? Therefore, we're going to hold this open for all purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Rick is Miller.
On the application of case number 2912, the Sunflower Patch, 40 Hill Street.
All these more important.
You staying, Chick?
You can go, Chip.
Oh, yeah?
You have our permission.
It is actually my anniversary. My wife will appreciate that.
You want to tell us how many years?
38.
Oh, okay.
Rite Aid's open, you can get her something at Rite Aid.
That's exactly it. That's my next stop. Thanks.
I'll be quick. I'll be really quick. I am
Good night.
Britta Babishak. I'm the owner, director, and applicant on behalf of the Sunflower Patch Southampton, Inc. We are a private children's art studio arts program. looking to go into 40 Hill Street, Southampton. We operate Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 p.m., with some Saturdays. Children attend that are ages 2 through 8 years. We build an environment where they create, learn, play with the use of the arts. The program includes art, music, literature, world culture, movement, and incorporates daily, weekly, monthly thematic units. We offer 3-hour sessions and also hourly drop-off. There can be a maximum of 8 to 10 children per session. We generally average between 5 and 7 children per session. We offer small, intimate groups where children experience a high-quality experience in the arts. Their interactions between their teacher and the child offer a high level of engagement in art. And our drop-off program benefits with short periods of separation in preparation for programs, for preschool programs in school settings. We increase child confidence, also allow parents independence as they need time to care for their needs, and we offer an ability to share time with other children and their families. We offer a high degree of flexibility for our parents in today's world, obviously with their increasing needs of flexibility. We offer a yearly membership. We limit those number of memberships for families in the community. And our goal is really to, there's a list of our goals, but our goal is really to offer a high-quality arts program, to have a space in the community for children to explore the arts and have a fun space of their own, to be a dependable source for families, and be a site in the community of family interaction and for children to interact. We hopefully will contribute also to the success of other businesses downtown, considering parents can then drop off in our arts program their children and be able to utilize other businesses downtown. We also try to contribute to causes in the community, provide some intergenerational programming. We also offer some art therapy and services for children with special needs. And lastly, just promote the love of learning through the arts and incorporate back into learning the arts that has somewhat been withdrawn from learning, and hopefully incorporate the arts as a role in children's lives. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. I don't know if there are any special requirements given that they're children, safety-wise and such.
We follow all of the New York State safety requirements. We're registered with the state. We do adhere to all of the New York State guidelines under New York State law.
Do you have to do any special coordination with the fire marshal or anything like that?
We will receive after this meeting with approval. We will follow with the next step is the fire inspection, which we are ready for.
This operation is just proposed, right? It's not an operation now, is it?
I do have an existing location in Southold. It's been in operation for 4 years.
So you have some experience then?
Yes. I've been in this field for over 12 years. I have an establishment that is exactly the same model in Southold, in the town of Southold, for 4 years. So it's been very successful there. We do run a full program. We actually have the desire to come here is because we do have clients from the community, the South Fork community, Southampton, and there's a great need for children's programming, and specifically with the arts and specifically with the age groups that we offer.
So you'll operate the two places then?
Yes.
How about the staff? Do they have to meet any sort of requirements for licensing or accreditation? Or?
Yes, they do. I do look at their educational background. I do a specific background check. They do have to be CPR and first aid certified. Yes.
You don't have to be college educated though?
Yes.
Oh, they do have to be college
Absolutely. Yes, and I have my master's, yes.
But not by law, they don't have to be, do they?
No, just for my own standards, they do. Yes. So.
Jerry? Rick?
Okay, I have to, the first issue that we have to determine is what use category does this use fall into under the zoning code? And it's not a simple issue to determine. I noticed that you, next to the application, you highlighted the section of the code that deals with a philanthropic, fraternal, social, or educational, institutional office or meeting room nonprofit.
That is actually what Chris Talbot
I was going to ask you, is that what the
assigned to me.
they suggested to you?
Yes, that's what he suggested to me in his review of the code and what
My
he
guess is you're not
assigned to me.
nonprofit.
No, I'm not.
I didn't think so. So that category.
Generally, we're generally village business,
Yeah,
and
let me just get through this for the board's benefit, and then we can take it from there. So I don't think, so this doesn't appear to fall under that section. Also, it doesn't help, it probably doesn't help the applicant to want to be under that section because the zoning code requires a lot area of 3 acres and frontage of at least 200 feet in order to qualify for the standards for that use. I'm not sure which lot this is on. We didn't get a survey with the application, but let me come back to that.
Those attached office buildings on Hill Street,
Lots of Paulsby.
Pardon?
just about across from Paul's Restaurant.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's in that area, but I don't know what's on this particular lot.
Oh, a whole lot of buildings, a whole lot of office space.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Let's come back to a survey. Okay, so that use category, well, I don't know. Does it have 3 acres? Does it have 200 feet on Hill Street? I'd be
The
surprised.
entire complex?
That
It may have 200 feet on Hill Street, I don't know if it has 200.
Well, if we had a survey, well, to start with, you, and I'm not being critical, I know you're doing this for yourself, but
Yes.
We should have a survey of the property.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you have to go out and get a new survey. You have to, but provide us with an existing survey of the property so we can see what's contained on this property.
Okay.
And I guess there's probably parking spaces in the back on this
I
property?
do have photographs of that if you'd like to see it.
Maybe you can give us this, you could probably get it from the village office, building department,
Okay, along with the survey, do you want to
a
see the?
survey of the property, and including, if it's not shown on the survey, a site plan.
Chris said he would provide you with the survey actually on, when I handed in the application for, he said he would provide the survey with it.
Did it get into it? I don't think it got into our file.
Because he was putting me with that use, he said he had the survey with it.
Okay, well, we need it for our file,
Okay.
okay?
And he wasn't really sure where to put me.
Right, I know.
That's what got me in
And
this
I'm trying to-
situation.
Okay, so I don't think it's gonna fit under that category. There's another category, nursery school, but I don't,
It's not, and in the town of Southold, we're actually in retail. We're in the town of Southold, we are in a retail space, and we needed no special exception use whatsoever. So I did communicate that to Chris. I did not.
ZBA there?
No, I did not. We are a children's
There's-
art studio and a
There's
studio.
shot, there's possibly a shot at it being a permitted use. There's another use category that's called personal service shop, and that includes various kind of uses.
That is actually the use that I suggested to Chris of
and
where I would
one of
fall.
them is a professional studio.
Yes.
So if it falls under that category, it's a permitted use, and
I don't see that listed.
okay, it's number 19 in the table. Well, if you don't have the code, do you have the code in front of you?
No.
No, okay. Personal service shop includes various kind of uses, a barber shop, a beauty parlor, dry cleaning, a laundry service, professional studio, travel agency, or something similar to the foregoing. Now, maybe this qualifies as a professional studio.
That was originally what he assigned to me the first time I was in the office. And the second time I went back, then he reassigned me.
If he assigned that, you wouldn't need to be here.
Exactly.
So, let me,
Not to waste
Maybe
your
you could-
time.
maybe you can provide a little more information. You mentioned that you were registered with the state?
We're registered as a service business with the state, yes, as an art studio with the state, as any small business, but we're not, we're not licensed daycare or preschool, no.
So I don't know what you mean by registered as a small business.
We're just registered, we follow all the New York State guidelines, we're registered as a small business, but we're not registered licensed daycare or preschool.
What do those guidelines call your business?
We're technically under retail
Okay,
and
so
a
that's
studio,
okay.
just like a dance studio or an art studio.
Let me ask you another question.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you have highly qualified and certified staff of instructors and assistants.
Yes.
Now, maybe you could provide us something, what types of qualifications?
I generally look for college degree, graduate degree within early childhood, within the arts, and they might have, a lot of teachers are coming out of the school systems, and I'm getting a lot of resumes of certified teachers. I do have a certified instructor in my Southold location. She's actually a certified New York
See, that
State
means
licensed
something to
teacher.
you, but certified doesn't mean anything to us. Without you telling us.
Within New York State, she's a certified teacher, like, out of the public school system. So, there's sometimes they're certified for public school, which, is not necessarily what I need entirely, but, sometimes it's helpful. It just lets me know that there's an extra level of professionalism there. And
That's what I'm heading for, since that use category uses the language professional studio. If you can give us a list of qualifications of the people that would be working for you,
okay.
and so we can see to what extent that might help fall under professional studio.
Okay.
But is a dance studio taught by a dancer? Is that professional? Where is an artist? Some artists, you might not think are professional. They think they are. I mean, it's a little gray.
It's gray. I remember years ago, across the street on Hill Street, I can't remember the name of it, but they had like gyms and equipment and stuff like that. You remember what that was?
Submersions, rotations,
Mill Lane.
rotations. It was.
No, it was in that building that's at the corner of Windmill and Hill Street.
Oh, yeah.
But it was some type of,
Gym.
but they had training, they had quote, professional people that were doing training, et cetera. And I think we might have qualified that as a professional studio. That's a long time ago, I'm not sure. I could make two suggestions. Number one, you can go back to Chris Talbot and convey to him what was discussed here and see if he's comfortable classifying it as a professional studio. If he is, then you don't need to come back.
Okay.
If he isn't, then you need to come back with us and give us in writing, whatever qualifications you can think of that you utilize, for your staff, and maybe we can.
Didn't we have something like this a long time ago? They wanted to go into what used to be the tile store?
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning
Windmill.
that at the work session, but that was in a different district. I think that was in the OD district,
Yes.
so that might have been different. I have a vague recollection of that case,
Yeah.
but again, I don't remember how it ended up.
They ended up, I think they withdrew it.
No,
It
we
never
we
happened.
were worried about stuff, access and fire and whatnot at the time.
So why don't you do that, sit down with the building department and give them your information about, a little more detail about the qualifications of your staff,
Okay.
and see if they're willing to go back. I mean, especially since they mentioned that the first time you were there.
Well, the first time I was in, that's what he classified me as and told me there would be no problems. And then when I came
Yeah.
back, then he switched and put me in this use. And I explained that I really felt like it was not the proper place that I should be.
Well, it's not easy. I mean, everything's great.
Exactly. We're definitely a new development in.
Unless you put some finger painting on the wall, you could call it a museum over here. Number 5.
Maybe.
So I would suggest that you explore a professional studio a little further with the
Okay.
building department. And if you satisfy them, then you don't need to come back to us. If you don't, then you'll have to come back to us and give us all that information. Whatever you can
Okay.
think of to try to make it, quote, professional.
Exactly. Thank you.
You need somebody who would have to have CPR? Do you need somebody trained for CPR?
Everyone is trained for CPR and
Everybody
first
is.
aid. Yes, absolutely. All have to have that, college degrees, yes, if not graduate degrees, within the arts and early childhood and first aid CPR.
All that stuff might be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience like to have heard of this application?
Not. Okay.
So, we're going to hold this one open for all purposes?
Yes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I move that this meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals be adjourned.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.